We're back. Hot takes coming off a big Patriots victory. No, we're just kidding. Sadly, pretty crazy. I didn't think the next time we would be doing hot takes would be the moment that Chip Kelly was fired.
He's dead. He died.
He died. He's dead. No,
I was like, no, we waited a year to do another episode.
I feel like people watch this and like we're in like a coma. They'd be like, how long have I been in a coma for? I'd be like, oh, like a day or two. I don't know. So I'm shocked. It's been really interesting to process, and I feel like the trash can that we're using to pile all the garbage into is so small, and there's so much trash that it's overflowing. Like I can't see in any way any positives coming out of this right now that are going to give me the excitement that I had when Chip came in, number one, and then two, ways to rectify what has happened for the team. And so thoughts on Porter, do you agree with the move? Do you like getting rid of Chip Kelly now?
No, I don't understand it really. It's like, it's one thing if you don't like him as a coach, and the whole ego thing that everyone was talking about. But the weird thing to me is that after 1 year of him being GM, to just fire him like that there's no sense there. If he trusted Chip Kelly enough to give him the GM role, why would he just go back on it immediately, and why would he just get rid of him as a coach as well? Or I still don't understand the whole situation. I don't know if it was, we don't like you as a GM. Well, if you don't like me as a GM, I'm going to be gone too as a coach.
Yeah, it's interesting, and it's almost like he even acknowledged today, Jeffrey Lurie, like, oh, we wanted to take a big bold risk, and I'm like, so you take a big bold risk, and then you just deflate it in a year because it didn't work out? Like, that seems like a really weak thing to do. But Austin, what do you think?
I think he just really didn't like Chip Kelly as a person. And I think a lot of people don't like Chip Kelly as a person. And you put up with it when you're winning. And then this year it was like a train wreck. And he was embarrassed on national TV multiple times. And he was like, okay, I'll put up with your cocky attitudes when you're winning and you're doing special things. But when you're one of the worst teams in the league, I'm not going to deal with this. And decided to pull the plug now.
Yeah, but
next year won't be any better.
What if they won the Washington game, and what if they won the Giants game? Do you think that they still would have kept him?
I don't know. It depends. I feel like if they go into the playoffs, they play Seattle and lose by like 30, I think there's a chance that they fire him that way too. I really think he was getting sick of Chip and is probably relieved that they lost the Washington game the way they did so they could get rid of him.
It seems like weak ownership to me to
I completely agree.
To not only put him in the position and then give him 1 year, but also to base it on winning a shitty division. So what most people are saying is if he had made the playoffs, they probably would have kept him. So winning the arguably worst division in football, maybe second worst.
It's not a good division.
No, it's not a good division at all. But
he acknowledged that in his press conference today. I think there's a good chance Chip would have been gone regardless, unless he won a playoff game.
Well, you know what I don't understand is this. Chip self-neutered his own offense. In Oregon, it was, don't even worry about fourth downs. We're going for it. And it was aggressive. It was going for two. If you remember the Washington game, the first game ever in the Chip Kelly era, we had Jason Peters and Lane Johnson lined up in trips formation on either side. We only had three offensive linemen. Like, where did that spark, that aggressiveness, that pedal to the metal go? And instead, he was just like, well, I just don't have good players, so I'm just not going to be aggressive anymore. And so if you're going to be monumentally difficult to deal with, request all the power and alienate certain people, and then also lose and reduce what you were brought. Like, Jeffrey Lurie paid Chip Kelly. He basically bought Chip Kelly's aggressive style. And when that didn't exist anymore, then what you're left with is a militant, crazy person. I personally think, I don't know it's it's so great for me because if they had a meeting and Chip was like, no, I'm unwilling to change. This is who I am. This is what we're gonna do. This is the only way I know how to do it. I think I would get rid of him. It was clearly not working. He is routinely playing people like Ed Reynolds, Riley Cooper. He still has Billy Davis. Pat Shurmur is weak. But I wish that I could hear him say, you know what? I'm learning from my mistakes. We're gonna make these changes in the offseason. And
I think that's another reason he was gone too. He wouldn't accept any responsibility. He wanted all the power, and he always passed the buck. And I think that just pissed Lurie off. And I felt like Lurie really kicked, like he said it really carefully, but he was shitting on Chip in the press conference today when he was talking about not taking responsibility and not really connecting with his players. And I don't think I think a lot of the players didn't like him. And the players don't have to like them, but I don't feel like they respected him at the end either.
Key players. The new players did. Jordan Matthews, Sam Bradford respects him. Zach Ertz respects him. Jason Peters, coming from a players coach like Andy Reid, who was like, oh, you want to eat a burrito during the game? Go ahead. I don't care if we lose by 6. Everybody loved fat Andy Reid. But Chip was like, no, you're gonna eat ice cubes because you're fat. And it was like, it was such a 180 for everybody. Also, another thing with Howie, I want to start calling him, you guys know who Zazu is? You ever heard that name, Zazu?
Yeah.
Parrot from The Lion King?
Oh, Gilbert Godfrey?
That's Howie. And if you look at the whole movie in The Lion King, Zazu was the most used.
I thought you said Aladdin.
Was it Aladdin? Aladdin. Thank you. Whatever. Some shitty Disney, some racist Disney movie. Whatever.
Some place that Donald Trump supporters would like to blow up.
Exactly. But the whole movie, the parrot, while not getting anything accomplished and while being extremely loud and aggressive, was always the number one guy because he stayed so close to the top and never alienated himself. And that is what Howie Roseman does it. I don't know if he's good or bad, but I do know that he's gotten rid of now Joe Banner, Andy Reid, Tom Gamble, Chip Kelly, and Ed Marionowitz, or whatever his name, Marinowitz. And to me, why would any coach want to join Howie Roseman? I don't think I like what they did there.
I agree with that. I think there's a good chance that there's a coach that won't want to come here. But at the same time, I look at the other openings. I'm like, well, it's not like they're going to be dying to go coach in Miami or dying to go coach for Tennessee.
Indianapolis, Andrew Luck, stuff like that.
Andrew Luck's a good opening. But we'll see. Who knows if they even fire Pagano.
I think they will, and they should.
Yeah, they should, but I don't think it's inevitable. I think there's a chance that he stays. There's always surprises after the last game, so we'll see what happens.
I think Chip Kelly ends up in either Miami or Tennessee.
I think Chip Kelly goes to Tennessee.
I think he goes to Tennessee or he takes a year off, and I think if he takes a year off from the NFL, he won't come back to the NFL until he's gone back to college, which is ironic, and I hate it, but I think he'll end up at a job like Texas in 2017.
I don't necessarily hate it, just because I think that there are a lot of really annoying Eagles fans that were like, it's the whole thing with Chip was like, there's no possible way he could ever return to college, and it's like, sometimes coaches do return to college. It might be to get back to the NFL, like Bill O'Brien or Harbaugh might be doing that. I don't know, but for people just to make fun of everyone that says Chip Kelly might go back to college, like at a certain point it got really fucking annoying. Like,
well, I think the thing with that is that it was more that was lazy journalism.
I agree it was.
Nothing to any college job.
But it was also a lazy, hacky joke after like the 20th time it was said. It was literally
Isn't that what Twitter is now?
What?
Isn't that what Twitter is?
No, it definitely is. It is, but like it's from people who think that they know everything about everything. That's why it got annoying to me. They were being genuine when they were like, "There's literally no way he could ever go back to college." And I'm like, well, sometimes coaches have to, and it's not necessarily because they want to. And I think right now he could get a coaching job because I do think that he had above 500 record.
Yeah.
He worked with a pretty shitty roster and did some decent things. Still only had really one or two good wins his whole time as the Eagles coach. based on who those wins were over. But I definitely think that he is still a legitimate coach. I just don't think that going back to college is completely out of the question. And it's like, I don't know. I would like to see it just so that those people can just shut the fuck up.
Yeah, I still also you mentioned the roster. When Chip Kelly took over, and I want to ask you a question after this, he had a lot of really big all-pro talent, but it was a very unbalanced roster. Like, we had no safeties, none at all. We had very little help at the linebacker position. Michael Kendricks was looking good.
We had no corners.
Yeah, and it was like we were either really, really good or really, really bad, but there was no balance. And if you flip that and you look at Andy Reid's roster right now, and he's getting a lot of undue praise, obviously, it was extremely balanced when you get to the defense was already like top 10 in the whole league basically, and he had an all-star running back ready to go, and he brought in a few pieces on offense that are making it click. One was Alex Smith, who isn't very good, but still, it's working because he was able to stand and balance himself before. Chip Kelly was constantly restocking quicksand. It was like, okay, we'll get Kerry Williams and Bradley Fletcher, and then it was like, if you miss on one draft pick, it's catastrophic because you have nothing there already. And so I think that did him in a little bit too. But
yeah,
he started making like DeMarco Murray, and it was like ignoring the offensive line. Like, you can't do that then. Now, do you think that for the new coach, which is a better roster, 2013, very unbalanced, or 2016, with possibly a quarterback than Sam Bradford?
I feel like I'll be lazy and say it's a push. You have guys like Fletcher Cox. You have some defensive talent, but you have no weapons anymore. But but the thing with the new roster is you do have some guys who could turn out to be decent. I think Jordan Matthews is still a good player if you use him correctly.
Logan.
I actually think that the roster
is a monster now.
Better now. I actually think that the biggest issue before was that they did not have a quarterback. You had Michael Vick and Nick Foles. Sam Bradford turned out to be he even won over Jason.
We don't even know if he's going to
happen. So you have a quarterback in Bradford that you can work with. He's not necessarily going to always be great, but that's a quarterback you can work with. The offensive line's really, really bad, and honestly, I don't think that Nelson Aguilar's as bad as he played. I don't think.
Look at the all-22 of the last game. He was open a lot. He was actually beating people into dust. There's some hope there.
And he needs to make catches. Drops are an issue, but that can be something that can be fixed if you're getting open.
Yeah, you get a good offensive coordinator, good wide receivers coach that really focuses on that. And then also, I think Jordan Matthews is a decent talent. The tight ends are what they are. I think Zach Ertz is what he did this year is kind of his ceiling, but it's workable. You get another tight end who can work with that. Selleck's obviously on the decline. On the defensive side of the ball, you actually have some real talent, like real cornerstones with Cox, Hicks, and Jenkins. So, to me, it's like
Rowe played pretty well at the end of the year.
Rowe played decent. Yeah, I think that you can really build around what the Eagles have, more so than the team before, because I think that they were very good at important positions. I thought they were good at wide receiver, which they are not good at now. But I do think that that position is a lot more fixable than getting good wide receivers is easier to fix than fixing the entire defense and fixing, even though the offensive line is still a problem.
Yeah. It's basically a commitment to drafting wide receivers. And I know everyone's like, well, we put so much into it. I'm like, yeah, but one wide receiver can spark the whole offense and make everyone else play better. And you have to avoid the penchant to go out and get an Andre Johnson or one of those lame guys or a very expensive guy like Alshon Jeffrey. Stay away. Guy plays 5 games a year. They're going to have to be committed to doing that through the draft.
And also, Jason's talked about it before, but wide receivers are almost never bust. If a wide receiver's drafted high, they almost always pan out. And if they're drafted in the first 3 rounds, they're at least a serviceable player. It seems like they're I think about the wide receiver busts that have been higher picks, and I'm like, even those guys are not as terrible as some of the picks that have been made over the years. The defensive ends, the guards, the tackles, the quarterback.
Darius Hayward, Bay, like those guys are still
Yeah,
serviceable
yeah,
wide
yeah.
receivers.
Like
Like
if
those are supposed to be
everyone
bust.
knew Hayward Bay was going to be a bust too.
What's that?
Hayward Bay was going to be a bust, and he's still like okay.
He's serviceable. I mean, he's like a third or fourth wide receiver on a team with great wide receivers. He's like the fourth wide receiver. But, I mean, the point being that you're going to have a much higher hit rate on getting wide receivers than you are on any other position. So I don't dislike them getting a Nelson Aguilar, getting a Jordan Matthews higher in the first and second round, and just continually trying to get guys like that. Because not only can it spark the offense, but you're going to have a much higher hit rate.
And let's say you go out and get draft like Treadwell this year, who I would love, and he turns out to be like DeAndre Hopkins. All of a sudden, you have a great receiving corps. Because I think if you have Aguilar and Matthews with a guy who's getting attention because he demands it, I think those guys can really step up and ignite your whole offense. Like, look at Marvin Jones and Sanu. They have AJ Green, so they become pretty solid receivers in that offense. And I don't think they're like great, but they're
And also a good offensive coordinator.
who we'll probably talk about later.
Yeah.
Let's say no one takes a quarterback. Eagles are up. They draft 12. Are you taking a quarterback first round?
Definitely.
No? Awesome.
I mean, it depends. I guess you have to look at the I guess you have to trust the coach, and the scouting department there. I personally don't like any of them to draft that high,
Yeah.
but if one of them does, I'll live with it.
Who? Like,
What I wouldn't be opposed to doing is if you say, okay, Bradford's going to get too much money, let him walk. Start Sanchez for a year and then draft Deshaun Watson next year.
Yeah. I mean,
that's really tanking though, because we've seen how bad Sanchez can be.
I know that's why I'm starting Sanchez because I really like Deshaun Watson because he's not white.
So fucking frustrating to know that even tanking is an option. So like, for all I want is to like compete. Even this year, I was like, we're bad, but that's fine because we're competing. We have meaningful games. Like if you're starting Mark Sanchez next year, or it's Andy Reid's first year, that 5-11 year. All right, we're literally like 700 days away from having a meaningful football game in Philadelphia. That's sonically depressing.
But I don't disagree if the strategy is to get a franchise quarterback, trust the process. No.
I hate it. I'm done with tanking unless you're already bad. I like
realistically.
But here's the thing: we are already bad.
No, yeah, but there's no one to get this year. Like I want the Eagles to put the best possible team they can together next year.
I
want them to go win a Super Bowl next year. Honestly, my expectation is to win the division and go to the playoffs. I'm not deterring that because we get some new coach in here, which brings us to this. You don't have to list if you don't want it, but I feel like I would combine our list here. Top 3 coaches that you'd want. Austin, we'll start with you.
And I like Adam Gase a lot.
Yeah.
They're both promising. They've both put together solid offenses they're not in the greatest situations. One of them has Andy Dalton. He has good weapons around him, but he's made the weapons better. And Adam Gase took Jay Cutler, who was a laughingstock last year, and he put together a solid year with Alshon Jeffrey barely playing.
Jay Cutler's one of his best years of his career, which is pretty incredible, and probably the worst season in Bears history.
And he's a young guy. Really what I'm looking for is I want Bruce Arians. We missed out on Bruce Arians last time. I didn't even want Bruce Arians last time because I'm like, he's old, so he's probably stupid. Because in my experience, most old people are stupid. But, those are my main 2. And maybe Josh McDaniels.
Okay.
But I want an offensive guy. Sean McDermott would ruin my life. I hate Sean McDermott.
We're going to get there.
Honestly, I think Hugh Jackson's the only coach that I think that they should even target. I think that Hugh Jackson, not only does he had one season in Oakland, went 8-8 with a pretty shitty with a pretty shitty team. Had Jason Campbell get hurt in the first half of the season. Had a desperation move. The thing is, if they get a guy like Hugh Jackson, I don't think that they can let him be GM. That's what he had in Oakland, and that was kind of his downfall, which was what we saw with Chip. But the major difference to me is that when I watch like Cincinnati over the past 2 years with him as the offensive coordinator, every time I watch, outside of like the Houston game this year, I felt like I was watching improvements on literally every aspect of that. Like, Tyler Eifert comes out of nowhere this year. He was injured last year. Tyler Eifert comes out of nowhere, has a decent year. Jeremy Hill, who was complete shit this year, he made him look great as a rookie. He makes the wide receivers look better. I know it's not all him, and it's the progression of all the players together, working together. But I mean, he's taken a team that was like in the bottom 5 in offense like 2 years before he got there, and now they're in the top 5. And I look at coaches who can get the most out of their talent, and I'm not saying that Adam Gase isn't good at that. I'm saying that Adam Gase has, Alshon Jeffrey, Jay Cutler, very similar mold, but I also think that he has had 1 year where we've really seen it, and then before that, it was like, okay, you have fucking Peyton Manning.
Well, I was impressed what he did his last year in Denver. More than when
that was a broken Peyton Manning. We saw that. It was still not
he
healthy.
did, but he wasn't broken for like the first 9 games of the season. He was still the Peyton Manning of old, and
but it was impressive how they turned into a running team after Peyton Manning.
No, I agree. That was impressive too. I think he got the most out of what he had, and that was I totally agree. But also he's almost always had more talent than Hugh Jackson has had to work with. And
the good thing about Hugh Jackson though is that Jeffrey Lurie said today he's not going to be hiring a coach that wants player personnel control. So if that's what it is, he feels like a more.
Well, I don't know if Hugh Jackson wants it. Maybe he realized that wasn't.
Yeah, no. I'm just saying that you won't get that with Hugh Jackson.
Well, he did say that the coach will have some say, but we never know because he doesn't like to say who had control because he doesn't like to have blame on people. But he did say the coach will have some say in the drafting and player personnel department. So as long as he doesn't demand full control, I feel like he does get some say in the new whatever thing they set up.
All right. Yeah, I think number 1 during the regular season, I was really stunting for Adam Gase. I think I've come around more on Hugh Jackson because I feel like there's a grittiness to his preparation. In a pretty difficult division in terms of just it's horribly boring and terrible, and they have terrible racist fans. But I think that because of where he has been and what he's accomplished now in Oakland and Cincinnati, both are horrible free agent markets, and he was left with Andy Dalton's one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL, and he's making him look honestly like a Pro Bowler on many levels. I like him. Adam Gase would be my number 2. My fear with him now is that he's going to turn out a lot like Mike McCoy. If you remember, Mike McCoy, I actually wanted Mike McCoy number 1 when we hired Chip, who I was still thrilled about, and he turned out to not be very good. I don't think that the offense is like to blame. I think that they have Philip Rivers and Gates, and they have a bunch of talent, Keenan Allen, and they're still only winning a few games a season. That's my worry with Gase is that it's going to be very similar to that. Defense is going to get completely ignored and stuff like that. Hugh Jackson seems to have his pulse. Seems to be well liked.
He seems to be a real defensive coach. He's worked on both sides of the ball. He has experience with defense and experience with offense. Which, when you're talking about a head coach and you're talking about a guy who will have an eye for not only defensive talent but also for coordinators, that's very important.
Yeah. Third on my list, and I like the college ranks. I like promoting talent that has earned it.
I know there's no way they would do that again, though.
No, but David Shaw is a pro-ready guy, and I like his demeanor. I think he's a lot like Hugh Jackson with the way he prepares for the game, where each game is its own. Like Chip Kelly was like, we're running the sweeps with DeMarco no matter who we're playing. David Shaw, I've seen him adapt to his surroundings of we're playing USC this week versus we're playing Oregon this week. Remember, they were always the team to beat Oregon. Always. It was always David Shaw. And he was molded by Jim Harbaugh, who, as we've seen, is dominating wherever he goes. Michigan is dominating recruiting. They're going to get the number 1 player in the entire nation in a few days. So I like David Shaw also. I think they should give him a real look. And I guess that means we're going to turn it over to – you can give me 1 or 2 names that would make you fucking kill yourself if they're hired as head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles. And Austin, I'm sure you'd want to go first, so go ahead.
Everybody all these people on Twitter are talking about Sean McDermott. When Sean McDermott was here, I hated watching him on defense. Sean McDermott is not smart. Ron Rivera is a great defensive coordinator. He's coaching under Ron Rivera, so their defense is decent, but it hasn't been decent the whole time he was there. If you remember last season,
Give up 900 yards to the Giants.
last season they remember when the Eagles crushed them? Their defense was horrible up to that game, and all of a sudden they turned it on because Josh Norman somehow turned out to be Darrelle Revis midway through the season.
Yeah.
I like when people say they want Sean McDermott, I lose respect for their football knowledge.
Yep.
It's beyond stupid. If you want a defensive guy, which I still would never hire a defensive coordinator, Paul Gunther from the Bengals would be a much better option. He works with less talent, and their defense is great every year somehow.
Yep. What about Wade Phillips? His name was mentioned today.
I really like Wade Phillips as defensive coordinator. I do not like him as a head coach. He was a joke. Well, then again, it's a Cowboys organization, so it's hard to tell.
Right.
But
he's pretty successful.
Yeah, maybe he's defensive Bruce Arians, but I don't know. I still don't want a defensive guy because if you have a defensive,
reminds me of Charlie Manuel, and I'll forever be grateful for Charlie Manuel, but I fucking hate Charlie Manuel. He was an idiot, and I hate idiots. I hate idiots from the South, and he didn't say. They were like, Charlie, what do you think of the game? He was like, gravy. I'm like, cool, great interview. You fucking. I don't want that, and that is what Wade Phillips reminded. His dad was named Bum. Like, no, next. I'd rather.
Yeah, I forgot how stupid Wade Phillips looked. I just Google image searched him. He looks like a fucking moron. Okay, when you look up Wade Phillips, in one of the related searches, it just says confused. It's literally just pictures of Wade Phillips confused.
Yeah, no, no thanks for me on that. But Porter,
the only thing worse than Wade Phillips would be if they decided to make Joe Paterno's statue the head coach. That's the only thing that would make me more mad than Sean McDermott. I hate Sean McDermott.
Porter, what about for you? Anybody that you'd absolutely be like, fuck no?
I've heard Chuck Pagano's name thrown around there. I don't think he's a good coach at all, so I would definitely say him.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely an awful coach. He was able to lose with what is supposed to be a surefire Hall of Famer in Andrew Luck. He couldn't win with him. The moment Bruce Arians left, that organization fell into the toilet and got flushed. So I agree with that.
And also, I heard Ryan Grigson's name being thrown around for GM prior to
they're not going to hire a GM.
Yeah, I just said prior to the announcement earlier today, and I was like, every Colts fan hates Grigson. So
the worst. He was like, okay, here's what I'll do. That talented player, basically, he did in real life what people thought Chip Kelly did, was let go of good players and replace them with really undersized whites that have never played football. I feel like in their entire lives, it was like, if you watch
by signing every player who was over 37.
I know.
He's like, you know, who'd be a great pickup? Todd Harriman's and Trent Cole's corpses, and also Andre Johnson's corpse. Is Frank Gore's corpse working?
You know what? It's funny. They picked up both of those guys in whatever age they were at, over 30 or over 35, and they had just played 800 snaps the year before and 900 snaps in Chip Kelly's fast-paced warp speed offense. I'm like, do you think these guys are going to improve? What the hell are you doing? For me, since I don't want to double up, but I agree, Sean McDermott is a life sentence of bad decisions. I mean, it would take 15 years to get out of the mistake of choosing Sean McDermott to be your head coach, and here's why. He's got a good, he's got a good aura around him. He works well with people. He tries really hard. So the losing with him will be more bearable. 6 wins 3 years in a row. All right, let's give him another year. It'll be a lot like Gus Bradley in Seattle. And he's actually probably worse than Gus Bradley because Gus Bradley had a fucking great defense in Seattle, and he's the one who made it. So. And
I saw a tweet today that said, if Cam Newton wasn't tearing it up right now, would anybody even be talking about Sean McDermott? And the answer is no.
Reuben Frank would be.
Well, yeah, because Reuben Frank wants to suck his dick. To be quite frank.
For me, I've seen some people throw out there that Doug Peterson's going to get interviews, and could you think of a more at least Sean McDermott? You're Josh Norman. Could you think of a less inspiring person than Doug Peterson? I'd rather them just be on the team. I'd rather them kill my entire family than Doug Peterson to be the coach. I would campaign outside of the stadium like one of those religious freaks.
If you
To say, go to fucking hell, Eagles.
if you search Doug Peterson on Google, the #1 search is Doug Peterson spelled correctly without the D instead, and it's a Nebraska politician. So maybe they should hire him.
I'd rather them hire him. Doug Peterson is literal garbage. But I saw that name flying around. It would be, to me, a huge issue. And this is the most important hire, obviously, in Eagles history. I know that in years past it also seems like that, but the reputation of the franchise was just coming off of like a lot of success, so we had some of that built in. But now we haven't had it in a little while, and it's being bookended by Chip Kelly. So this is extremely important. You can't screw it up. But I would go Hugh Jackson. And I would let them rock and roll. If you go Adam Gase, you might be able to sway Wade Phillips to come as the defensive coordinator, though.
How's that?
He's the defensive coordinator in Denver, and you just never know. I mean, he may opt out and take a trip down here.
Maybe.
And I was thinking about things that would make me like excited about a new coach, and I was like, switching to a 4-3 would mean maybe we keep Vinny Curry, and Vinny Curry's a good player, but the fact that that's the thing that I'd be excited about is kind of sad at this point. Like, I'm gonna hang my hat on Vinny Curry.
We're the fucking Browns. I'll be like, oh man, I can't wait for Jabal Sheard. That was the Browns back in the day. Like, sweet. Yeah, I know. Drink so much next fall.
Yeah, that's what this really is starting to feel like.
Yeah, so I'm thinking it was a sad ending for me. I wanted Chip Kelly to work out more than I've ever wanted anything to work out in, Philly sports history. I was so excited, and I love the fact that his offense was designed to humiliate and obliterate his competition, and I want that. I don't want Mike Zimmer.
Then it turned out that he was just Andy Reid, but did it really fast.
Yeah, he was just Andy Reid really quickly.
And a lot meaner than Andy Reid, too, because Andy Reid at least is I don't know what, jolly.
Andy Reid was mean, and here's the thing: he was mean. He was rude to the fans, because the fans would be like, "Hey, Andy, I don't know if you know this, but Mark Semino is definitely fucking horrible at his job, and we were the idiots." And then I was like, "Okay, he was really bad."
By jolly, I mean he was jolly to like the Howard Eskins of the world. So he had this good reputation because he always like sucked up to the media members, which is kind of a bizarre thing to do.
Yeah.
But that's who Andy Reid was, and he made allies. That's why Andy Reid would be able to last seasons like this, but Chip Kelly can't, because Chip Kelly's an asshole to everybody.
Yeah, I mean, they fired Andy Reid 4 years after they should have fired him.
Yeah.
That's amazing he lasted that long. Anyway, always fun. I feel like we'll probably jump back on here when there's real news, so maybe we have to rehire our coach to see kind of how it's going, and then maybe near the NFL draft, and we'll see how it goes. But my expectations for next year haven't changed. They better win the goddamn division, or I'm going to freak out on Twitter.
Porter's making funny faces. One more note on Reuben Frank and Sean McDermott. Before the days of Twitter, Reuben Frank blocked me on Facebook for saying Sean McDermott was bad.
Yeah, he's a child with that kind of stuff. He really is.
Reuben Frank is he's the Brandon Graham of.
Dan Klausner said it the best. He said he's slovenly, and I totally agree. He's a disgusting of a human being. So, all right. Well, listen, signing off. It was fun. It was actually a fun year to get to do this and meet cool people like Austin and kind of hang out and bitch about it online, but it didn't.
Yeah, it was cool to meet a cool person like Jason, too.
Can't wait to see you again next year.
Yeah. All right. So we'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching.